John Leckie is one of Britain's most acclaimed rock producers. He has produced and engineered music by Muse, the Stone Roses, Radiohead, Pink Floyd, and many, many more. An invited audience of 80 record producers gathered at Abbey Road Studios, where George Shilling sat down with John to chat about the studios and his amazing career there.
Where's your shoes? You're fired.
I just got a D19C. If I put it over the drummer, will it sound like Ringo? Use a note or some
That's right.
Jane Howard, that's me, with the help of Tape Community Music and Film, have brought the conversation to life through my animations.
So, what was the question?
I don't know. Million channels on this desk.
There's a million channels, yeah.
And then there's more mic preamps in the wall over there.
Hundreds of them, yeah.
Leave ones and all sorts going on.
And outboard, we did have outboard in 3. The only outboard we had, actually, were Keepex and Game Brains.
Mm-hmm.
And Fairchilds and Altex.
Yeah.
And of course, on the TG desk, you got compressors on every channel. So they kind of said, well, you don't need, what do you want limiters and compressors for? You've got Fairchilds.
And did you have echo plates, EMT plates? And
4 EMT plates.
And springs?
No.
No springs. That's a bit low rent for Abbey Road.
No springs. You had 4 EMT plates, which you could patch around anywhere, but you also had 3 chambers. So each studio, there's chambers 1, 2, and 3. And on the roof here, if you go up to the top floor, and when you come to the top of the stairs, straight ahead of you is a door, which unfortunately is locked, but it was always left open. And you could climb out on the roof there. And on the roof is still there is a little, a very short tiled room, which is number 3's chamber.
Right.
Number 1's chamber was under the front of the house, under what used to be room 42.
Yeah, it used to be the stable for the horse.
Was it? Is that what that
Back
chamber
in
was?
1840,
Oh, right.
when the house was built,
Yeah.
the front house.
So
Stables.
Before EMT plates were invented, each studio had its own echo chamber. And again, you could patch between them. So if you were doing a mix in here, you could use number 1 or number 2 chamber. You could have 4 plates and 4 chambers if no one else. And very often you did. Yeah, I mean, effects-wise, all you had was plates, chambers, and tape echo, and tapes going, on vari speed and that kind of thing. And
when you think about how much is written on the internet about the merits of different mic preamps, I was saying earlier, I didn't even know the word mic preamp for the first 10 years of my career, because you just turned it up on the top of the desk, didn't you?
That's right,
You just used what was in the desk.
And you used the desk. I mean, you either went to that studio or what you made, the record you made had the sound of that desk, and I'm still a great believer in that, actually. I don't like using loads of
external
outboard gear and external amps, and, or you've got to have a Neve on your guitar, and you've got to have a Focusrite on your bass drum.
Well, I find it a distraction. I don't know about you. You sort of, there's more chance of cocking it up if you've got millions of things plugged in.
Losing it and that kind of
summing mixing as well. Plugging lots of things in.
But then you don't, and then you come to mix it, and everything's all different. Everything is all got a different colour, you know. Whereas if you record it all on an SSL, it's a lot easier to mix because it's all got a unified. The glue is there, really, is the sound of the SSL or the sound of the Neve or something, or the sound of the TG, whatever that is.
That sounds pretty good.
We hated TG mixers.
Did you really?
So glad to get rid of them. Yeah, they're absolute shit they are. Has anyone ever done a session? Has anyone ever made a record on a TG?
Well, I did. I worked on Mike Edge's
whole record.
Mike Edge's had one in his studio in France. Which,
that's right. Yeah,
he sold for about 2 million quid or something. But I did a couple of sessions with him on that. I thought it sounded great.
Yeah.
But compared with most of the desks I was, the Amex and things that I was freelancing and using in those days, when we put a tape on and I turned the limiter on every channel because that sounds great. Oh, that sounds great. I was limiting everything like crazy.
Yeah, because it doesn't.
And I pressed stop and it went.
That's right. Yeah, and the little needle goes up. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. But no, I think we actually secretly hated the TG desk, probably because it sounded good without doing anything to it. And what we wanted to do in the 70s was do stuff, have lots of fiddling and EQ, and you know, being able to have a parametric. I remember getting an Oban parametric and thinking, fuck, look, you can change the shape and all this, and there was all this little, which on a TG you can't do. I mean, it's just bass and treble, really, which is the beauty of it, I think, and why people like it, and the fact that it sounds great going straight through. But at the time, when we got the Neve disc in, it was just like a dream, you know, because you could do all sorts of things, you know.
Yeah.
But having said that, one thing about the TG that we used to do is you could go, not on that desk, but on the wraparound desk where you got these primary and secondary functions. I don't know if you know that. The channel select thing, if it's when it's on primary, you route to your main faders. So if you've got 16, or I think it's only 16, isn't it? 16 main faders, although they're all identical. So if you got a mic on channel 1, you could either route it to primary 1, which was track 1, going through the group, or secondary 1 went straight to tape, straight to the output with no going through it. But what you could do, I don't know how many channels would be on the desk, 20 or 48 channels. You could go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. So if you wanted more EQ, you just routed it to there and routed that one to there and that one to there and that. And you could actually take a signal and go through every single channel on the desk. And if they're all at unity gain, when you got to the end, it should be the same. And it was. There was hardly any loss or noise build up or anything.
Military spec build, weren't they?
Military spec, yeah. If everything was unity gain, you could go from one to the other and to the other and come out the other end, and it was pretty much the same as what you were putting into it. Yeah. And now the red desk, of course, was completely the opposite. It was always, you know, it had bare board, because it was valve and stuff. It all depended on what level you were driving into it, and probably because they were old and, you know, they weren't up to spec and things. So you never really knew what you were doing with a red desk. You didn't know what was going on.
But
really.
they'd gone pretty much by the time you got here, or did you?
Yeah, no, they were just in tape copying rooms, really.
Right, okay.
What we used to call tape copying rooms.
Oh, so
Steve Trainer, and there was a room upstairs that a guy called Dave Pickett had, which was the mock stereo room, which is where you did.
Oh yeah.
Artificial simulated
how was
stereo.
that done? What was the trick then? What did you do?
It'd have a stereo plate, so everything was a bit more reverb. A bit more, everything was
because
mono
used to be,
to stereo.
A lot of my parents' records will say artificially enhanced to be stereo. Yeah. So it was a bit of reverb.
That was it, a bit of a reverb, and
the EQ one side different from it. Because
anything really.
I think I've got a 7-inch of She Loves You or something like that, which has got like
more stereo.
It's very trebly on one side and very bassy on the other side.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah, or something.
Trying to anything that would make it sound stereo, because they had to sell it stereo. You know, if they were on the record that it was stereo, and you played it back and it was mono, it's like, hey, hang on a minute, you know, you'd
take
have
it back
to
to
take it to court. Yeah. So, and of course they were making more money, you know, because they were selling the same mix. Bodged up as stereo and getting twice as much money for it.
Yeah. That's what everyone was hoping to do with 5.1, wasn't they?
Yeah, 5.1, yeah.
Didn't really happen though.
No. And then quadraphonic came in. So all these rooms, even the old, when the Neve desk came in, it was a quadraphonic room with 4 speakers, 4 JBLs in each corner. Not 5 and a sub or anything. It was just 4 identical speakers. And they built room 4, which is down the corridor next to 2, because 2 was quadraphonic as well. And the room down number 4 was the quadraphonic remix room. So again, it was 4 JBLs with a TG desk, and someone had built some joystick panners and other stuff. And you'd do mixes, you know, like Alan Parsons would mix Dark Side of the Moon in quad, and
there must be loads in the archives of quad mixes that, you know, should have come out on SACD or something, which I'd love to hear. You know?
And you'd do 2 versions. You'd do what was called Discrete, which was mixed down to 1-inch 4-track, which always sounded fantastic because it was 4 individual channels. And what was called SQ encoded, which was, I think, a Sony CBS encoding thing, so that they could play back 4 channels from a stereo disc, as it were. You know, I don't know how it was encoded or something. And so every time you did a quadraphonic mix, you'd copy it discrete, but also do an SQ one, and you could monitor SQ and it was absolutely awful because as soon as you switched to the output of the decoder, it would just go mono over your head, and anything that was centre back disappeared, so you couldn't put anything centre back. And so if you pan something round as it went centre back, it would just disappear and come back again. So it was always a big disappointment, because you knew when you did a quadraphonic mix, no one was going to hear it except you in that room.
Well, I think it's often true with 5.1, isn't it? Unless you're in the sweet spot, unless you were there, it was a quad mix of tubular bells as well. But whenever you talk to anybody involved with those, or they was, oh no, it wasn't very good. It's like, well, it doesn't matter if it wasn't very good. I'd still love to hear it. Just from a historical sort of perspective of what they were thinking, however bonkers it is. I'd love to hear it. So I think they've missed a trick a bit by not reissuing all those.
Yeah.
Was that all right, mate?
That was fantastic. That's brilliant.
Is that the sort of thing you wanted?